I look around myself and I see most people in one stage of despair or another. Sure, we all have happy and good times, but I see a lot of despair. And I'm not immune to that despair myself. I felt it often enough. And I've asked myself why. Why are people in a constant state of despair? I've come up with so many answers, but the one that sticks the most is because despair is profitable. It's very profitable. And to some people, profit is the only thing that matters. Because of the internet, we now have information from all over the earth available to us immediately and at any time we want, and even if we don't want it. This information is controlled. You're only going to get what they want you to know, and it always seems to be about a crisis. We are all in a permanent state of crisis. It's just one emergency after another. They hit us with economic scares, weather-related issues, housing emergencies, wars, cultural collapse, job loss, the fear of AI, etc. You name it, and there is a crisis for it, and that crisis is being delivered to you on a silver platter every single day. Breaking news! Oh, how the social influencers love to say that. Breaking news! Yes, listen breathlessly while I speak, or read voraciously while I shove this crisis slop into you. Act now! Donate now! Go out and buy this product now before it's too late. Limited availability. Well, you know how it goes. At this point, our system requires a crisis to even function anymore. The news about the Boy Scout campground doesn't excite people or urge them to open their wallets. Attention equals revenue. Remember that. Attention equals revenue. And how do they get your attention? They keep you engaged with fear, which causes the urgency for you to spend money, either on a product or maybe useless baubles you don't need, or maybe even just therapy because you're so overwhelmed by the fear. But one way or another, they'll get you to spend your money. And this causes constant instability in your life, which equals control to the powers that be. If you are unstable, they've got you right where they want you, impotent and unable to act in your own life. You see, being calm is bad for business. If you're calm, you're not going to spend as much, and you won't be afraid as much, so you won't be as vulnerable anymore. And that right there reduces profit. It also reduces control. But profit is the big thing here. And incidentally, it's a way to find out whether you're being bamboozled or not. You can always sniff out the parasites of society by asking yourself the age-old question: who benefits? Who profits? It's not that there aren't real crises and problems in life. There absolutely are. But when we're hit with crises all day long, some artificial, some real, we can't even digest them. And we certainly can't decompress. We can't relax because we're spending all of our time on their concerns and not our concerns. Constant crises keep us glued to our screens, and when we're glued to our screens, we're not being productive in our own lives. We're not spending time with friends, learning a new skill, growing a garden. No, instead we're glued to a screen about an issue that might have happened, we don't really know, somewhere on the other side of the world. People don't show up for calm, but they do show up for fear. And the more volatility going on in the world, the more opportunity there is to extract your cash. Act now! Donate now! Go out and buy this product now before it's too late. Limited availability. When you have one emergency being fed to you after another, one new crisis after another of health care or social collapse, You end up in a state of permanent stress with a constant feeling that something terrible is just about to happen, and this causes massive anxiety. Together, stress and anxiety slowly but surely destroy your entire system, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and that just keeps you glued to the screen even more. A long time ago, it took a while to get the fear into everyone. You had to wait for it to come over the telegraph wires, to be announced on the radio, to be delivered in the nightly news, so you had time to decompress. You also had time to sort through the truth and sort through the hype. In a way, people were actually better informed because they sussed out the facts and not the fear. It wasn't shoveled into them. They had some control over how they got it. It wasn't furtively oozed into their frontal lobes like it is today. But now it's instantaneous. Gotta keep you engaged. When you're constantly reacting and not acting, and there's a difference there, reacting and not acting, then you're not creating anything for yourself, and you're certainly not coming up with alternatives for yourself for when a real crisis does come along, which it will. That will happen. Real crises do happen. Instead of spending your money on practical alternatives to keep yourself safe, you've gone and spent a good portion of it on their idea. Or maybe just wasted it on baubles and trinkets and useless things because it gave you a sense of immediate gratification and relief for a lousy 5 minutes. When you're strung out, you're not processing anything, and the powers that be will profit from your emotions. They'll keep those digital fires going 24/7. There's no relaxing when you're dealing with them. You know, it's one thing to stay informed to an extent about the world around you. It's quite another thing to stay constantly inflamed with digital fires. Now, if you try to pull away, and many people do, sometimes making multiple attempts to pull away, the system senses it. They go after you. They'll entice you and egg you on. Very soon, the personally designed bots will show up in comments saying just what you always believed, and they just happen to come from where you are, too. They live just a couple of towns away. Isn't that something? The bots will, quote, like you and what you said, unquote, which will give you that little hit of dopamine, which will ease your pleasure-starved mind and suck you right back in. So what do? I mean, people have been conditioned that fear is normal. Well, it's not, but it feels normal because we're so used to it. There's a fine line between staying educated about something and being caught up in the grips of fear. Now, I and other people have said, oh, well, just turn off the TV, shut off the computer, leave the phone at home, and that's all very fine and well. But when you're caught up in the grips of agonizing fear, you're not going to do that because the screen is not only massively addicting, we all know that, but it feels like a lifeline. That's right. Even though it's eventually going to kill you, and it will, the screen feels like a lifeline. The poison feels like the cure. So, what do? First things first. Schedule an amount of time you allow yourself to be engaged online. 10 minutes of scrolling in the morning, 15 minutes on a news site, 20 minutes of videos at night, whatever. Come up with a schedule that works for you and stick to it. As soon as you feel the urge to go beyond your schedule, recognize that the system has sensed that you are pulling away, and they're going to throw everything at you that they've got. Don't fall for it. Stick to your guns, even though it may feel uncomfortable. Next, guard your sleep like it is a sacred, holy ritual, because that's exactly what it is. Sleep heals the body. It heals the mind. It bandages the emotions, and it restores the spirit. Set a schedule to sleep and then do it. If you're an insomniac, Force yourself to lie down for at least 2 hours. And then if you haven't slept and you get up, do not go online. Read a book, do a craft, sit outside and listen to the crickets. Eventually, your sleep will increase. Next, you gotta try to be stable in a very unstable culture. You gotta focus on local things instead of global things. Does it matter that a tornado is coming your way? You better believe it does. Does it matter that there's a famine in Africa? No, it doesn't. And that doesn't make you mean. If you've got extra money, you can donate to charities that will help give food to Africa. If you don't have extra money, you can say prayers. You can do both if possible, if you want to. But then you have to let it go, because you have to focus on the tornado coming your way and not spend everything monetarily or emotionally on a crisis that's on the other side of the earth. You have to focus on you. Next, you have to choose a quieter life and be aware of that choice every day. Because remember, they're gonna try to suck you back in. You have to refuse to live your life in a constant state of alarm. If you're going to be vigilant about something, be vigilant about yourself and your own family. That doesn't mean you're selfish or heartless, but you can only do so much for others before you end up sacrificing your own life on the altar of politics and greed. How does a strong man get strong? Through resistance. He lifts heavier and heavier weights until he builds a body of muscle and grit. Well, there's more than one kind of strength, you know. How do you become strong mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? The exact same way, through resistance. You resist, and slowly you become stronger and stronger. You deserve dignity, so stop giving it away and panicking like a fool. How do you build clarity in your life? By setting limits. If you have no limits and anything goes, you're going to get washed away in the filth of our current social system. When you set limits in your life on screen time, food, alcohol, relationships, whatever, you build your own secure enclave. Then you will have a space to look around yourself with eyes that actually see the deliberate structure you have built in your life and not the chaos that was handed to you. Is the world going to end tomorrow? Will society collapse? Will the grid go down? I don't know. That's certainly how they make us feel, though. But take it from someone who has already wasted too much of her time on phantom crises that never occurred, that if everything does collapse tomorrow, Mother Nature and the alternative realistic plans you have already made for yourself will still be here. So will your immediate community, but the screens will not.